Hey everyone, and welcome back to actually season 3 of I'd
Woohoo!
Like to Unsubscribe. Woohoo!
Look
I
at us
know,
still
right?
be
Wow,
here.
it's crazy. Time really flies when you're talking about chronic illness, I tell you.
It's a real treasure.
It is. But seriously, folks, okay, so we are kicking off this season with something I think that we can all relate to. And there are few things harder, right, than learning how to say no when everything in you has just been taught, right, pretty much since you were young, in a
Yeah.
lot of our cases, to say yes.
Mhm.
So I think most of us don't wake up one day and we suddenly have these great boundaries, right? We typically wake up exhausted and overcommitted and maybe a little resentful and wondering how our lives started running us instead of the other way around. So this episode is for every person out there who's ever said, it's fine, I can handle it, while inside you kind of feel like you're quietly unraveling. So today we're going to unsubscribe from having bad boundaries and the ones that sort of keep us stuck in people pleasing and over functioning and even spiritual burnout. We're going to talk about why so many of us confuse kindness with compliance and what scripture and psychology actually says about having healthy limits in your life. And we'll also talk about how to start reclaiming the peace that we've kind of been trading for approval. So, if you've ever found yourself replying, no worries, when actually you're really full of worries, or carrying everyone else's emotional laundry, well, yours is pretty much piling up in the corner, then this episode is for you.
What if the life you planned vanished overnight? For Marissa and Britt, it was painful chronic conditions without cures. We lost everything: our health, independence, careers, and even our sense of self. But in the wreckage, we found something unexpected: a chance to rebuild. Welcome to I'd Like to Unsubscribe, the podcast for anyone feeling stuck, lost, traumatized, or just straight up over it. This isn't about surviving illness or trauma. It's about ditching the toxic beliefs holding you back and even daring to dream again. We're bringing real talk, hard-earned wisdom, lots of sarcasm, and practical tools to help you rise. You'll laugh, you'll cry, and you'll remember, even in the darkest moments, hope is still alive. Are you experiencing symptoms of lupus or feeling alone on this journey? The Lupus Foundation of New England is here to help you. They're dedicated to supporting those living with lupus, offering education, resources, and a community to help you navigate the journey. From learning about symptoms and testing to upcoming events and research, the Lupus Foundation of New England has you covered. Visit lupusne.org and connect with others who truly understand. You don't have to do this alone. Visit lupusne.org. That's lupusne.org today. Hey everyone, welcome back to I'd Like to Unsubscribe, the podcast where we lovingly and sometimes nervously draw a line in the sand and whisper, not today. Because today's episode is called I'd Like to Unsubscribe from My Bad Boundaries. And if any of you click off like, I don't know, I've never had that issue before, you're lying. Okay, let's just start with that. Because honestly, my lack of boundaries has caused more drama than more of my exes have.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. You know, I feel like this episode that you're about to take part in is really part therapy. It's going to be part Bible study, and it's really going to be part roasting of our former selves, Britt.
Oh,
'Cause
yeah.
we had some pretty terrible boundaries.
Yes. And we check each other on it quite often. So, y'all, as we say, we are not the experts here, but we are girls trying, and this is what we've learned. So, first, we want to start with what boundaries actually are, because I think this is this new buzzword and it's like on everything. And I've just got to put boundaries, but like, do we know what they are?
Yeah.
We really love Dr. Henry Cloud and Dr. John Townsend, and they together wrote this book called Boundaries, and
So good.
it's so good. Like, y'all, you get it if you're just like, maybe this is for me a little bit.
That
And what
should
they
be like a high school, college read, right? Instead of some like
Yes.
other books I won't mention, but
Yeah, like, why are we reading of mice and men? What did we learn? Don't put a mice in your pocket? I mean, this is what we need. Like,
I will love it and I will pet it. Meanwhile, Maybe there's some things we're not supposed to love or pet, right?
Yes. You need to
talk
let
about
that
boundaries.
go. If he had read boundaries, he would have let the mouse go. Oh my gosh. Solved. Solved. Here we are. So yeah, boundaries, guys, we need them, okay? Because what they say is boundaries define us. They define what is me and what's not me, okay? A boundary shows where I end and then something else begins.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it is one of my favorite books. It's like one of those books that will forever be on my bookshelf so I can reread it over and over again. I think maybe the first time I was introduced to it was like 15 years ago from a therapist. But anyway, somewhere along the way, I think a lot of us, especially women and especially women that are people of faith, right?
Yes.
There's
Yes.
this like subtle message that if we have boundaries, then it's selfish.
Yeah.
And I think when we have wrong messaging like that, it's had a lot of consequences in our life because
Yes.
we automatically think like, well, am I being selfish right now?
Yeah. Yeah, that is 100% the messaging that I received as a Christian kid, which is, it's turn the other cheek. It's just keep going, And yet when we look at it, it's like Jesus was running himself ragged, trying to please everybody, attending every potluck he was, invited to and replying to every text, AKA papyrus scroll delivered by some carrier bird. Like, is that what we see? No, absolutely not. Jesus lived just 33 years on the earth and only did full-time ministry for 3 of them. Just 3. Jesus himself, like God's son, right? He lived in a small town. He helped his family. He worked in the family business in basic obscurity, right? Like there's no fame to this guy. Then when his ministry did start, he only went to a small area for one group of people for a short period of time. And that was Jesus. Like the entire thing we're basing our faith on. And yet we're like, gotta do harder, gotta go more, can't say no. Like, what? If we're trying to follow Jesus, this something does not add up.
I mean, and it is the perfect example, right? Because Jesus, like, he had great boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
So he withdrew when he wanted to go pray, right? He said
Yeah.
no. He said no, something a lot of us struggle with. He left the crowd.
Yeah.
Even let people walk away from him.
That's it.
Okay?
Yep. He let people walk away. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which I know, there's people, and myself included, that sometimes we struggle with those things. So, there's actually, because I love surveys and statistics and whatnot, there's a 2020 Journal of Social and Personal Relationship Study. And in it, it found that people with weak boundaries, which, we're not saying like you're a bad person. Like Britt and I still have boundaries that we need to work on.
Yeah.
But people that tend to have more weak boundaries also have higher anxiety, burnout, and chronic stress.
Yeah.
So simply put, boundaries, I think they aren't just emotional wellness. They're literally protection for our nervous system. Because it's not even just like autoimmune, right? And chronic illness, but like when you have chronic stress, if you're healthy, you're putting yourself at such a high risk to have a health condition down the road.
Yeah.
And trust me, no one wants any of this.
No.
I'm trying to save you.
Yes, please listen. Because y'all, I mean, I really am still trying to recover from the bad boundaries I've had years ago, because of the higher levels of anxiety and the burnout and the stress that I got then. Like this doesn't just like, I realized I had some bad boundaries and then I took a supplement and it went away. Like, no, like this is long-term effects because of boundaries. So yes, please listen to, what we're saying, like the blaring red flags, because we're going to keep singing the praises of the book Boundaries because it is so essential, because it lays it out so clearly. Because it says we can't set limits on others, but we can set limits on our own exposure to people who behave poorly. And I love that, because I think when I think of a boundary, I'm like, you can't do this. And it's like, no. Boundary's not for them. A boundary's for me. And I'm protecting me, not them.
Yeah. That's a perfect saying. So I think if anyone in our audience cross stitches, please put that on a pillow and send it our way. Good one.
Catnip for me, y'all. I love cross stitch. So please, I would love that. Please send it. I will put my address in the show notes. No, I'm joking. No, I will not do that. But and I didn't realize this because, when you think of boundaries, you just think, okay, like these are just kind of like rules. But there's actually 2 types of boundaries. Did you know that? I wasn't super familiar because these boundaries are like defining boundaries, and then there's protective boundaries. Okay, so like breaking them down. A defining boundary are boundaries that are valuable, that establish who you are and who you are not. And they're the core of your personality. They're kind of like what makes you your character. So they reflect what you believe and what you think is important in life. Like this is a defining boundary. This is a who I am and what you value kind of a deal. And these core values, these define your identity, right? They're going to define your faith, what your priorities are, and your integrity. These are things that people can just see in your life by observing you, like what matters to you. They're less about protection and they're more about defining. So, kind of examples, so you can kind of like break it down. I don't gossip even when everyone else is. Okay, that is a defining boundary, and that's the boundary of integrity and loyalty. Define who I am. These define my values. I need these to be a part of my life. My faith is central to my decisions. Like I see everything through the lens of my faith. So that's a spiritual identity, and it guides my behavior and it guides my relationships. Family dinners in my family are non-negotiables. Like we do family dinners together. Now that doesn't always look like it's at the table. Sometimes it's cuddling around the sofa together, but we eat together. And that for me is because I value connection and presence over busyness. So that's a defining boundary for me. And I'm honest. Like if you ask my kids right now, like what is the number one thing we say in this house is we do not lie to each other. Right? So I want to be honest even when I feel uncomfortable with it. And that's truth over approval. That's a defining boundary in my life. This is who I am, and I'm not going to betray myself or somebody else to be liked. These are who I am. This is setting who I want to be. But then there's the other, which is the protective boundaries. And this is how you guard your heart and your energy. So these are the ones I think that are more where we see, I got to draw a boundary in this relationship. This is where these come in, because protective boundaries differ as they're designed to guard your heart. And we see that reflected in Proverbs 4:23, right? Like the Bible verse, above all, let's guard your heart. And you want to guard your heart. You want to guard your life, obviously, from like danger and trouble. Like this is where these come in. And Dr. Townsend affirms that there are times when you must protect your values, when you must protect your emotions, where you have to protect your gifts and your time and energy from people and situations that may want to waste or injure them. Like this is essential for your well-being. They exist to safeguard your emotional, physical, mental and spiritual health from being depleted or being manipulated or being harmed by somebody. But they should be flexible. These are not hard and fast lines like you're defining boundaries of I am an honest person. This is going to ebb and flow because I may have more energy or may give in other situations. So they need to be flexible, situational, and they are meant to change as circumstances, shift around. So examples of that, I don't answer phone calls after 7 p.m. because I'm protecting my rest and my family time. I'll talk about this topic when we both stay calm. Y'all, I cannot handle people yelling. My own trauma, but I can't do it because I need to protect my peace during conflict. Or it could sound like I love you, but I'm not available to process this again today, which is sometimes we have to say with our friends. It's like, I love you so much, but if you tell me about that one more time, I'm going to lose it. That's protecting mental bandwidth, protecting burnout, blocking or muting accounts, which I've had to do that trigger comparison or anxiety for me. That's protecting your mental health and your spiritual peace. Protective boundaries just say I'm responsible for guarding my body and mind, and I'm going to do that well. So that's kind of like the breakdown between the two of them.
Yeah, I'm glad that you talked about the two of them because I do think the word boundaries is sort of shoved down our throat, especially online.
Yeah.
Like we hear it all the time now. I don't necessarily hear people differentiating between them though, which I think is really important. And I think for the more protective boundaries, I'm glad that you mentioned like things will ebb and flow. I mean, those might change, like depending what season of life you're in. Like you said, how much energy you have, who the person is in the situation. I actually had something, on the days that we record, I shut everything off, and I let those closest to me know, like, you will not be able to get a hold of me during these times, right?
Yeah.
And then I had a friend that had a crisis this morning, and I had to turn everything back on and help them. It was an emergency, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there are those things that you're like, okay, in this situation, I am comfortable extending myself, right? And
Yeah.
giving more than I normally would. Right. So yeah, just knowing the difference, and being able, I think, to differentiate into categories is very helpful when you're really looking at boundaries in your life, and which might be new, what you want to set up. But before reading that book, I was not aware that there were actually different types. Again, we just hear the word, right?
Right.
But I have yet to meet a friend in crisis, like, who is not looking to take something, like, not,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't mean that in a negative way, right? But
Yeah.
it's either time, right? Which
Mm-hmm.
this morning I was happy to give, right? Emotions. And it was also emotion because I was hurting because they're hurting,
Mm-hmm.
and just energy. So what are we supposed to just wait until we are completely full until we give that out? And again, I don't think that's really the takeaway here. I think the key here is whether that friend or that person in your life, are they going to waste or hurt that precious resource that you're about to give them? Because I always tell
Mm-hmm.
people, like, my biggest commodity in life is time.
Yeah.
We have a short amount of time. First of all,
Yeah.
this is like a blink, our life. But also, when you're chronically ill, you have even less time, or at least in my brain, the way I see it, as usable time, right?
Yeah.
That you can really function at a good percentage and get things done, and really truly enjoy something, because you're actually not focused on how terrible you feel or how much pain you're in. So it
Yeah.
is a really precious resource.
Yeah.
So is that person going to waste or hurt that resource, or are they just going to borrow them for a short moment and actually use them, and
Mm-hmm.
I think the way that it should be used. So we all at one time have been that friend in crisis. Lord knows
Yeah.
that that is pretty much hourly for you and I, Britt, right? For each
Preach.
other.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Or maybe every 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But we've all needed to borrow strength from friends. That light sort of in the depth of, like, deep darkness, and being that truth in a hole of lies, right? Which
Mm-hmm.
is solely, like, from the enemy. But I
Mm-hmm.
think it has been essential to our healing. So how can I carry someone else's burdens, but also keep my boundaries intact? I think that that is
Mm-hmm.
the question. And we can look at that in pretty much every situation in life.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a really beautiful question, because, okay, we want to be there for people, but we don't want to burn out. But, like, there doesn't seem to be, like, any connection between the two. Like, where's the Venn diagram, And I think in our lives and what we have learned in trying to recover from bad boundaries, because, y'all, it's because we didn't do it right that we're here talking about it. I think simply, and yet really challengingly, it's truth and communication. And so, I mean, how many have friends that feel draining to you? Because I got a couple. I'm not going to name them. I love them, but they're draining, right? How many of you feel like you're that draining friend? As me. I feel that all the time, So how many times have you put off that text message, or intentionally missed the call because you saw the caller ID and you just were like, I got nothing. I got nothing in the tank. And, they need you and you're like, I can't right now. Or how many of you have picked up, the phone to reach out for help or love, but then you put it back down because you were too scared of being rejected?
Yeah.
Right? Like, we've all been there. This is normal and okay. This is not to call you out. You're not a bad person for being any of these. And y'all, there's no shame in admitting this, right? Because this is where healing starts for all of us. And that's totally okay. We have to find our starting point. But it's these practices where we shy away, or we, put the call down, right? It's these that are the most destructive to community and then to our own human soul.
I think maybe we've forgotten, or maybe never really learned, the correct way, just how to be honest, but with grace.
Yeah.
And we sort of replace truth with, like, my truth. And we're so prone now with pop culture to be so protective of our truth and our space and our healing, right? I mean, I feel like that is such a message that is being, like, driven home on social, but it is to the point where we are eliminating everyone around us, like, cutting people out left and right? Because we're forgetting how to care for someone else and help them carry what they are being drowned by. And there is a way to do that without compromising your own integrity or your own boundaries. But I
Yeah.
don't think that that's the message that we are being sort of drowned in at the moment. I think it's like
No.
just, well, cut them out and they're
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah, exactly. And we're looking at each other wondering, "Why is everybody so lonely? Why is there an epidemic of loneliness?"
Yeah.
But
Why
we're
are
all
families like completely torn apart because
yeah,
everyone's cut everyone out?
yeah, yeah. "Oh, well, you don't like what Aunt Susie says because she votes differently than you do? Cut her out." Boundary. That's
Right. And,
not it.
maybe your boundary is like, we don't talk about this topic.
Mhm.
We don't necessarily follow each other on social media, but can't we still be loving and kind during like a Thanksgiving dinner?
Yes. Yes, because honestly, boundaries rarely are, "You're out of my life entirely." That's a deep consequence,
Yeah.
but a boundary is saying, "This is how you treat me." A boundary is trying to set up parameters for you to be in somebody's life in a safe way.
Hmm.
But you're right, like, I think the messaging we're getting is cut them out, X them, cancel them, and that's not where we need to be as human beings because we're getting even more and more lonely, right?
Yeah.
So
And well, and I think almost, what is it, apathetic? Like, I
yeah,
feel like we're in a label and cut them out culture.
yes. Yeah,
It's scary.
but
I
that
don't know where
doesn't
we're going like 5 years from now. I'm a little nervous.
yeah, but that's not cute enough to put on, like, a mug.
No, no one wants that on their Instagram feed.
Yes. 'Cause y'all, we are still deeply in need. It's not like all of us got super healthy because of all this and that we believed and we put in all these beautiful boundaries, so we have all this lovely time and space. Like, I don't know a lot of people who are thriving right now, living their best life because life is challenging. And, even me, I recently reached out to a friend who is, concurrently struggling through the same issue that I was having, and, it's that place where, like, I know she's tender here, but so was I. And I needed a sounding board. I needed someone that knew what I was going through and I needed to talk to them. And I wrestled for hours with texting her. I was like,
Mm.
"Ugh, okay, like I would pick it up and and then, erase and, go back to the three dots. Nope, dots down. Like, do I reach out? Do I not? Does she have capacity to handle this right now? Because she's going through a lot. I think I'm just going to burden her or overburden her with my cares. Am I even just being sensitive to her right now? I mean, like I'm going around and around. But do you know who I wasn't asking these questions? Her.
Yeah.
Like, who can answer this? I can't. She can. She's the only person who knows what she could or could not handle that day. So I picked up the phone and I started with this text. I'm struggling through some things right now. Do you have any capacity to hold space for me here?
Mm.
And now she gets to decide her honesty, her boundaries without guilt.
Yeah.
And it was so beautiful because her response back was, actually, I do.
Yeah.
And we were able to be
Amazing.
there for each other because instead of like, oh, I'm not going to burden her. I'm too much, whatever it is. I'm just putting it back in her court asking, what do you have today?
Right. Well, because you could have created, and you probably did for a second there, a lot of different stories in your head.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But that's the perfect example because it shows like it all starts with honesty and
Mhm.
communication. So many things could be rectified and so many relationships, right, can be strengthened if we just have some communication with some
Yes.
honesty. And I think first and foremost with yourself, like even ask yourself, like, okay, what level am I at today? I think
Mhm.
especially when you're living with a chronic illness, what can I handle today? I know
Yeah.
within the first few minutes usually of every day where my body is at. Now that might shift more in the afternoon, like once I've moved around, once I've taken my medicine and my supplements and all of those things. But like we have to ask ourselves, what can I actually handle today that won't completely drown me and put me
Yeah.
under?
Yeah.
We're not meant to learn like what our personality types are and enneagrams and our limits and be in perpetual therapy, like just to improve ourselves. I think
Yeah.
if we have that constant self-focus, it sometimes actually makes us worse, like not
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
I think that we are knitted together and created to focus on others, right? To also love others. But we were meant to undergo this dissection, I think, so that we actually know what our limits are and how we work so that we can then help others
Yes.
while simultaneously loving ourselves and not losing like those best parts of ourselves either in the process.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's it. You nailed it. You nailed it. It's not about learning everything about us for us. It's so that we know how to operate in the world for the sake of other people and being there, right? It sounds like, oh yeah, that makes sense, but like, why are we so bad at this?
Oh.
That's my question.
Why are we so bad at this? Man, I think there's a lot of reasons, honestly. Like, I think a lot of it comes down to like fear, guilt, control, or just, the trauma that we've experienced. Like, I think sometimes we have, right? Like fear of rejection. If I say no to this person right now, because I literally cannot handle one more thing. I mean, and maybe that is the absolute truth of the situation. Our brain goes to, if I say no, they'll leave.
Yeah. Yes.
Or, guilt. Like, I think I probably grew up in a household like this. A good person, a good woman, right? You don't disappoint others. You always say yes, Or if you've had trauma, well, if I say no, then it usually equals some type of punishment. So I just have to do it. And you don't want to do something under that umbrella. Like, you don't want that to be the reason that you say yes to something or someone.
Right.
Or control. And this is a huge battle for me. If I don't do it, then it's not going to get done right. And that, the pressure that we put on ourselves with that one is unbelievable in our life.
I about drowned myself with that one this week. I was at drowning point until I was like, wait a minute. I recognize this.
Looks familiar.
Yes. Yeah. But it was only a week, guys. So that's progress. Because, oh man, the struggle with that agreement, it's all on me. It's all on me. And I'll pat myself on the back and say that I don't bite on that lie as much as I used to, but when I do, you will find me pushing through. Like, you guys know this. Like, you're just like, I need a nap, but you're like, oh, I'm good at this. Like, I'm taking over things that people are already doing. I'm like walking to my bathroom and my husband's like cleaning something. I might grab the rag. I'm like doing it, over him. Like, really, like I become like, oh, okay, I've got to fold the clothes in a certain way. And if they're not, which I don't care about, but I'm like, right now I'm going to be like this. I'm micromanaging the process. Like, see crazy mommy cleaning loudly while making everybody else feel bad about it. Like, what is she doing?
That always sets a really good like atmosphere in the home.
Great. It's very peaceful over here is what I'm saying. Our home is extremely peaceful.
We've all done this. That's the thing. We've all done this.
Yes. Calling myself out. Yes. There you go, people. Sacrifice me.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, Britt, you and I are built so similarly. It cracks me up. But, just in like my household where it's taking care of my elderly mom, who is my best friend, and I adore her. So I'm always going to take care of her. And then dealing with like finances and bills and cleaning. And I'm like, I'll cover and I'll handle it all because like I am afraid it will fall to the wayside or not get done correctly.
Yes.
Or if I delegate it, I feel like this is just, my idiosyncrasies. It's if I delegate it, it's a constant worry of like, well, did they do it?
Yeah.
Did they already get it done? Did they do it correctly? Is it paid? Like, should I go check and make sure it's paid? Like, I don't want to micromanage someone. Like, I know how that feels when someone does it to you. It feels really crappy. I don't like it. I don't like when people do it to me. But I take it on. And then I take more on, and then I wind up having crazy anxiety over all of it. And all of this is being said because if you fall into any of those that we were just speaking about, the fear of rejection, guilt, trauma, or control, Britt and I are telling you this because you're not alone. And no one is expecting you to change those behaviors and create better boundaries like this or overnight. I think today it's more of a challenge of where can we improve? Like that is the question, like I always ask, like, where is there improvement? How can I better myself? Like, and it's not just this constant journey of improving. It's also when I do these things, I'm helping myself. I'm making my life have a little bit more open space. I am taking some of the anxiety away, and it's not easy. Like I still have a hard time delegating and letting go of control. So that's just our little note for that is you're not alone. Britt and I still struggle with this, even though we're talking about boundaries. It's something that we're still, we're still learning. And I think we're going to keep learning just until the day that we're not here anymore. So anyway, if you want to learn some more about boundaries, we are going to talk about some actual practical ways to improve in this area of life, things that Britt and I do, and just maybe some that will resonate with you. We're going to just step aside for a quick 60 seconds for our amazing sponsors that make this podcast available to you.
Struggling to figure out what's going on with your health? Try Folia, the health app that lets you capture everything you care about so you can get to the bottom of it. Folia helps you spot patterns while building your source of truth. Download Folia Health free in the App Store or on Google Play with invite code LupusCheck. That's Folia Health, the app making personalized healthcare a reality.
Are you experiencing symptoms of lupus or feeling alone on this journey? The Lupus Foundation of New England is here to help you. They're dedicated to supporting those living with lupus, offering education, resources, and a community to help you navigate the journey. From learning about symptoms and testing to upcoming events and research, the Lupus Foundation of New England has you covered. Visit lupusne.org and connect with others who truly understand. You don't have to do this alone. Visit lupusne.org. That's lupusne.org today.
So let's get real practical, because this is where we need to start putting what we learn into practice. How do you know if you are missing boundaries in a relationship? These are just some, like, your litmus tests here. You know it by how it feels. You don't want to respond to that person's text or phone calls? There needs to be a boundary. You're feeling bitter or resentful. There's probably some missing boundaries there. You have an internal or even external eye roll when you see somebody that just like, okay, like, all right, there's a boundary that's missing there. If you're feeling anxious or unsettled in someone's presence, well, you know what's going on. Or if you leave a situation or a meeting or whatever it is and you feel empty or sad after you spend time with this person, congratulations. You have now found where you need a boundary.
Yeah. I think there's one out of all of those where we're all like, I know someone where that fits, or a situation in my life where that fits. And like you said before, if we want to start boundary setting in a healthier and better way, it starts with honesty and that conversation or that communication.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the honesty with where you are at with your own energy, your own health, your own emotional state. And maybe that sounds like, I can't be there for you in the way that you're asking right now. Even if you get that text of like, hey, I really need someone to talk to right now. And you love that person, you adore them, but you also know it's probably going to be an hour-long conversation.
Yeah.
And you have major deadlines or something you can't get out of right now. So maybe that response, that boundary line sounds like something of, I can't be there for you in the way you're asking right now, but I can pray for you in this moment, and then genuinely, obviously pray for them. Or I can meet up with you at a designated later date or later tonight. I can text instead right now. Like that happens to me all the time, especially, honestly, when I'm in Zooms, like if something happens, I'm like, hey, just text me because at least I can communicate with you. Right.
Yeah.
Or I can't talk right now, but I'll send you like ridiculous, cat memes throughout the day, whatever your relationship is. Yeah. With that person.
Yeah.
And also setting a time limit. And that used to be super uncomfortable for me, but I let, at times I do let people know if I am on the phone with them and as soon as we connect on the phone call, I'll just say, hey, listen, I have 15 minutes, not trying to rush you or brush you off when we get close to that point, but I have a Zoom or I have an appointment, but I really wanted to talk to you. So let's get at it. And again, it's just being super honest. And I think any of these, if you're not used to them, they can feel really uncomfortable in the beginning. Yeah. It's like when you start saying no to things and you're not used to doing that either. It feels really uncomfortable. And then you get to a point where it just naturally rolls off the tongue because you recognize, and your brain and your body recognizes that when you do say no, you're opening up space for other things. And your life becomes, maybe healthier in some ways, or you have more energy, you have more time to rest, whatever the thing is. But maybe it also sounds like, hey, I might be able to not talk right now, but you know what? Let's do something fun or relaxing where we can spend some time together and talk. Maybe ladies, you're going to go get a pedicure, and maybe for the men, hey, let's go axe throwing, and you just chit chat and actually have some one-on-one like FaceTime with someone. And those are some ways to respond. But you have to ask yourself right now in this situation, in this moment, what can I honestly give to someone else?
Yeah.
Except instead of like you're obligated to just always lay everything down and give everything of yourself, even if you are already under the line of your on your own, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's huge because I think your body gives you cues too. Like I know I'm an empath, and people, I'll be in the checkout line and they'll be like, "Can I tell you about my childhood trauma?" I'm like, "Absolutely, let's do this." And that's fine. I had that face apparently along with RBF. It's a nice combo. But I realized after 45 minutes of talking to somebody, if they're in a place of trauma, my brain starts to disassociate after 45 minutes. Like I am no longer present. My brain is like, we are shut down. So instead of being like, my limit's 45 minutes, no, my limit's 30 minutes. I don't need to push myself all the way to disassociation.
Yes.
Do you see that boundary? It's not like, okay, 45 minutes and then I'm like empty. No, it's 30 minutes. And why is that not enough? Like I feel like, especially in the female realm or Christian realm, it's like we got to do it to the limit, do the max. And then we're always looking at each other and being like, why do I feel so empty? You had no boundaries. You pushed yourself to your limit every day. We're not supposed to live at our limits every day. Whoa, there's a thought for all of us,
Yeah, right.
It's
Well, you even said it earlier, like, or I don't remember, maybe I said it, but Jesus wasn't like, oh, my friends have like so much heavy stuff right now. I got to stay here. I got to like deal with all of this. He actually left. Like,
Yeah.
He left. He's like,
Irish goodbye them. Yep. See ya. Yeah, exactly. That's Jesus. Because he's like, y'all, I can't do this unless I get recharged too.
Unless I recharge and help myself. Yeah.
Yeah. And y'all, so many times, when we see this and we're in, especially for the empaths among us, we're trying to be there for people. We're trying to, meet their needs because we want someone to meet our needs. We're giving out from our pain, and that's so beautiful. But we want to leave you with a warning too about like being there for a friend in need does not, and I mean, hear me clearly, empaths, does not mean you are her counselor. Okay? We are not saviors. I know at least half of us are cringing because of that, because we all have this within us, like, I've got to help, if you're Enneagram 2, everybody's like, no, I got to save. I want to help, and it's beautiful. And that's the heart of God. And that's the goodness within you. But there are paid professionals for that service. Yeah. And even if you are a counselor, it is not up to you to counsel your friends. Again, other paid professionals. You are simply there to offer a listening ear, some encouragement, some laughs, companionship, love, prayer, if that's, your mindset. But you're not there to fix your friend. And I know that feels so heavy, especially for some of us that, we're like, we know how bad and how dark things can get. And so we want to like, bring them back up. But you can't. You can't fix them without drowning yourself. So like, hear this well, we need to have boundaries most of all, especially in the autoimmune world. Then add in, if you're an empath or, a tenderhearted person, like you need boundaries most of all. Because if we don't do this sacred work of setting boundaries, you're going to lose your identity. You're going to end up resentful, and you're going to teach people, like we've said before, you teach people how to teach you. You're teaching people that you are always available, that you can give no matter what, even when you have nothing. And is that really what you want? And I think sometimes when, I'll say to a friend who says something, I'll be like, say that again like you were talking to your kid. Is that what you want for your daughter, for your son? Like, if you don't want it for them, then you shouldn't want it for you.
I mean, it's kind of uncomfortable to hear that, right? Like, it's especially if you're someone like me where you have this whole like people pleasing thing, though I like to say I'm a former people pleaser. Now my friends are like, man, you just say no to everything. Like, well,
you please nobody.
No one anymore. But I think, there actually is a correlation between that behavior and the fallout that follows it. And trust me, like that was my behavior for the majority of my life. Again, I think it goes back to how you're, brought up. And it's like the women in our family were like, you just had to do all of it. Like you had to be that emotional person, the mom, the nurse, the cook, it's just like everything. So there's so much research. There's a 2019 APA study about this. Like, it's like chronic people pleasers have a much higher level of emotional exhaustion. That study was like a 60% higher, and even a 40% higher, more depression symptoms.
Wow.
So you're performing for everyone else's sake because you want to be there for them. But even like scientifically, like you are doing it and science backs us up, right? At the detriment of yourself. And here's the thing about that. It is not sustainable. There's going to be a point where, your relationships either start to break down, you're very irritable, things in your own life are falling to the wayside, or like Britt and I talked about before, your body has reached such a level of stress and exhaustion that all of a sudden, we talk about triggers. Now you have these chronic illness symptoms. Your body couldn't sustain that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Because a constant yes creates internal betrayal. Yeah. That's what it's really coming down to. And we haven't quoted her for a while. So,
Britt, I'm
I
shocked.
mean, Brene Brown, y'all, our girl Brene. Yeah. When we fail to set boundaries and hold people accountable, we will feel used and mistreated. And I don't even need Brene Brown to tell me that. It's just like when you sit in there and you're like, oh yeah, like what is this?
Someone's
feeling?
Like, man, this feels so good right now. Like,
what is this feeling? Like I just like I'm mad, and but that's not that person's fault, y'all.
You're right. You have to think about where that accountability lies on that one. So, and that resentment, like it poisons not even just the relationship, but also the body. And, Britt and I have some confessions on this and some of our own stories. Britt, I'll let you go first.
Thank you, by the way. Wow.
You're so welcome.
It's a nice boundary you set there. Okay, so I have an alter ego. And if you're like, that's weird, be like, no, okay. The great Beyonce has Sasha Fierce, so y'all can go relax, okay? My alter ego is Cool Girlfriend. Okay, and I talk to Marissa about Cool Girlfriend. Yeah. All the time. Yeah. She's super sexy. She's fun. She's chill. She's down for whatever. Okay. She's a blast. Loves to get tipsy and dance and go on vacations. She stays up late, but wakes up with no eye bags under her eyes. Okay. She's awesome. When I first got sick, there's no sugarcoating it. I was a train wreck. I lost so much hair. I used to have to put in clip-in hair extensions. I lost a ton of weight, and not in the fun weight, but I was below 100 pounds. So I literally looked emaciated. It was not sexy, losing weight. I had zero chill because my thyroid was basically trying to murder me. I couldn't sleep at all. I struggled with severe anxiety, making it super hard to be in any version of a stimulating environment, including just seeing sunlight, that level, right? And this version of me it's the opposite, if you're wondering, of Cool Girlfriend. Cool Girlfriend doesn't have any of those things.
No, she's perfect.
Yeah, she's wonderful. But I had done enough inner healing at the time, or rather, I hadn't done enough inner healing at the time to love this version of me. I didn't have enough confidence in my marriage to believe my husband could love this version of me. So y'all, I'm not talking months, years after diagnosis, trying to be fine, pushing through, praying the anxiety away, always saying yes to whatever my husband wanted to do because I didn't want to let him down, trying to not tell him how I was really feeling, drowning in shame when he would find me in the fetal position on the floor in tears because I couldn't get it enough together. And I didn't know how to say what I needed. I felt so resentful to my body, and because of my lack of boundaries, him, because I couldn't keep up anymore, at least what I thought. So there was no way I was going to be putting in a boundary. Because if you think about it, a boundary basically at its core is then saying, I deserve to be treated with respect and care. That's what a boundary says. Wait, I can put something here that says, wait, I have value. And I couldn't get there at the time. I saw myself as damaged goods, and I was drowning in my own self-deprecation. So it wasn't until almost everything fell apart that I realized truly how essential truth and boundaries were in a relationship, especially in a marriage relationship. I had to start to recognize and appreciate my limitations. And did you hear that? Appreciate my limitations, not resent the heck out of them. So I had to do this in order to turn to my husband and tell him my boundary, with this trust in him and really deeply in our vow that he would understand what I was going through and then not resent me or, kind of rather learn how to deal with those feelings of resentment, because that's pretty normal, when your life is completely different now, and those feelings will come up. So don't suppress them, just learn how to deal with them. And y'all, again, if I cannot reiterate this more, it's honesty in conversations. It's the hardest, easiest thing you will ever do. But take it from me, if you don't do it, your marriage is going to suffer. Your relationship will not grow. You're going to stagnate. You're going to have deep resentment. And then one day you're going to look at each other and be like, I can't do this anymore, because you were not honest with the worth of your own self to be able to bring your mate in and say, let's have a chat.
Out of all of our episodes, to me, that is one of the best stories. And I'm so glad that you shared it, because every single person that has lived with an illness has thought about this or experienced this on some level, whether you're married, whether you have a partner, whatever it is. There is a space or season, maybe after diagnosis or for those couple of years, where your brain hasn't fully processed that, life is different now, right? There's this new normal.
Yeah.
So we keep believing and telling ourselves we could still do all of the things that we had done.
Yes.
And if we actually showed that person that we love how much we're struggling, and that we are just, really trying our hardest and using every ounce of energy and borrowing from tomorrow's energy to put on this show of I've still got it. I can still handle all of this, right? And you feel like you're slowly dying inside, because I think there's that fear, right? We talked about that fear earlier of, if I really am honest here and show them how I'm feeling and how I'm struggling and how I cannot do all of the same things that I used to do, they will leave me. They won't love me anymore. They will find someone that this is not a part of the conversation or a part of everyday life. There's a million fears that can be tied to that.
Yeah.
And I'm glad, because obviously I look at you and Josh now and it's wow, and just such an incredible marriage. There's so much honesty, right? I hear some of your guys' conversation when you're around and I'm like,
a little too much.
Wow,
Yeah.
You guys just talk about everything. I love it, because that's, there's no filter anyway. But it really, I think, obviously you have an emotionally mature partner. You have someone that's in it for the long haul, right? That wants to work on this and recognizes, anyone can get sick. They can go be with another partner and that person can get sick down the line or get in an accident or whatever it is. So obviously you're working with two mature people here that understand it. Hard work is not an easy thing, and hard work in relationships it's just part of the relationship process. But look how strong it has made you two at the end of the day. So,
girl, you're gonna make me cry. I was like, don't cry through this part. Don't.
Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you for acknowledging that, because it's not easy to do this level of work. And
it's a lot.
Yeah.
And I see that, I've seen obviously the struggle but I see the fruit that has come out of that. So it's just been really cool to watch over the years. But I think, the story, it does resonate with so many people, because I know for me, and so many I've talked to through Lupus Chick over the years, right? We keep playing that I've got this card, right?
Cool girlfriend
card for so long after that diagnosis, right? I was literally almost dead after my diagnosis. And I, in my brain, was still like, I got this. I can still work. I can still bartend till 3 a.m. I can go to school all day and
Yep.
take care of my mom. Sure, I can go dancing on Saturday night with my girlfriends. I don't need a lot of sleep. Like 3 hours, it's fine. I'm just going to chug a bunch of caffeine, you know?
Yep.
I'm still me. We can still have fun. I can still spin all of these plates in the air because I don't want to let anyone down. I don't want anyone to judge me if I couldn't be there, or judge me because what happened to the old Marissa? You know, I was young when I got diagnosed. Like, I wanted to date. Like, I wanted to act like everything was cool. Like, sure, I lived in Fort Lauderdale at the time. Yeah, like we can go spend the day at the beach. I almost die after 5 minutes of sun. Like, I won't even, like, I would never share this person's name, but like, I went to the beach to try to be cool girlfriend for someone, and I wound up at the hospital for 2 days afterwards. I never told them. I was mortified because I remember a conversation with that person and them saying, like, you know, they love to be in the water. They love to do water sports, surf, and things like that. Of like, oh, I could never be with someone that like didn't share that same passion for the beach. I love the beach. I love the beach after 7 o'clock at night. Like, I love the water. It's literally like my favorite thing. But I pushed myself and I literally threw out any boundary there, and I paid for it so dearly. You know, and in time, and I didn't have health insurance then, so I paid for it also in thousands of dollars after that of a hospital visit. That was good. It was a fun date. It was a fun, very inexpensive date.
If they kept giving right there.
Yeah. You know, and in time I realized if you have no boundaries for your own self, like your own well-being and safety, no one's going to create them for you or act like you have any. Right? And when you do create them, wow. Like, you have to prepare yourself, I think, in advance for some pushback from some of the people around you.
What?
Yeah.
No, people love it.
Yeah.
They're going to love it.
Yeah. And I think the most disheartening part of that is often it will be someone like,
oh yeah,
really close to you, right?
Yes.
And I think that hurts even worse. But people who benefited from that lack of boundaries that you have, they're going to notice all of a sudden when you start having them. And if they start getting a little testy about the fact that you set up a boundary, like, you have to take notice of that behavior. Like, you cannot ignore that. Like, that's my biggest like stressor to you here. Like, don't ignore those little things that you're seeing because they're having an issue that now you're actually setting a line for yourself, like this goalpost of, because they're definitely not going to set that for you. I mean, there are people out there that intentionally, these are, you know, people that still have a lot of work that they need to have done, intentionally try to push back or see if they can get you to cross the line. Yeah. I mean, and to me, like, it's just an evil thing that there are people that are very intentional about getting you to try to break that boundary. Yeah. Not telling you what to do in your life. I just know for me, like, those people are not welcome around me. Again, we don't need to exile everyone, but that could be very, very unhealthy. So there has to be a boundary with those types of people.
Yeah, because boundaries, and I think the fear is this will be ruined, right, or lost. But boundaries never, ever, ever ruin a relationship. They reveal them. Y'all get that? Like, you're going to reveal what kind of a relationship you truly have the moment you put in a boundary. Because if you put in a boundary and someone's like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it, I love you still, guess what kind of relationship you have? A healthy one. Yeah. You put in a
exactly. Like, if someone respects your no, like, that's a loving response. Yeah. Right? If they're going to punish you for it, if they're going to try to make you break that integrity that you have, right, and that line you set for yourself, like, that's not love. Like, they're manipulating you. They're trying to control.
Gosh, that is a beautiful point, because you're totally right. That's just manipulation. And I really love Lisa Turkus. You know, she's gone through a lot. She's writing a ton about theology mixed with, you know, therapy and all this stuff right now. And I love what she says about boundaries, because she's like, they aren't meant to shove others away, but to keep us from being shoved past our point of peace. And that's what you're saying right there. Like, it just brought it to mind, because it's like, that's the difference. Those that love you that's no problem. But like you put in a line to say, hey, this is where my point of peace is, that's the line of demarcation. There's going to be those that want to try to push you past it. And that's why we need them. Like it's just, that's manipulation.
Yeah. Amen on that one. Another cross stitch pillow.
Yeah, exactly. Please, again, I love them. So please. But you know, the next layer to this whole conversation, we have to chat because it's great to have boundaries, right? We're all like, great, check. We should do this. We understand what they are. Double check. Yeah, we get the data. Check. And then somebody says, well, I'm going to cross the boundary. Well, then what do we do? Right? Because boundaries mean nothing without consequences.
I think it's one thing to draw that line, right? And it's another thing to stand behind it when someone crosses it.
Mm-hmm.
That's really hard. I've struggled in that area for sure, especially, you know, when I was younger. I think it's so funny. I remember like when I was young and my mom always telling me, when you hit your 40s, like you become very bold, right? Maybe it's just because you're tired. You just don't have enough energy for things. She's like, I could care less. Like once I got my 40s, right? She's like, I didn't care what people thought of me. I didn't care if I said no to a party invitation. Like you just, I don't know. Maybe you're just not so worried about other people's expectations of you. And I think for, you know, in those days, like it wasn't being discussed as boundaries because there was no internet. There was no like social media. She just says like, she found that like naturally just as she's matured. And I think as you mature and as you know, for us, like we do this work and we go to counseling and we read and we just always try to improve in different areas. Like, yes, if this is my line and then someone crosses that, like now I think of it in a different way where I think maybe it used to scare me. It used to frighten me into submitting to what they wanted, not then doubling down on like, no, this was my line. So now there's a consequence.
Yeah. I think it's, you know, like you said, like you get into your 40s and your brain just starts to get rid of like the fluff boundary things where it's like, someone's like, but I want to go out and do this all night. You know, no, that's, yeah. And like those boundaries, these like ancillary boundaries become so much easier. But I think in a lot of ways, the older we get, the harder, like the deeper boundaries of relationships with like your deepest, most intimate people. And those boundaries are the ones that we get the most pain from, right? You know, I stayed up too late with some friends and they wanted to take up my time. Okay, in a couple days, I'll be all right. But I lack boundaries with my husband or with my best friend and I'm left resentful. And then, you know, we break up. That's a whole different, you know, ball game, right? You know, so it's so different. So that's why they're so important because boundaries say this is what I need. And that's super important. But then as equally important is the consequence. Here's what I'll do if that need isn't respected. You got to draw it. And you got, like you said, it's one thing to stand behind the line when somebody crosses it. That's the hard part.
And that's the thing. Then I think as you're going through this process, right, of boundary making or just taking a closer look at your boundaries, the other question is, if someone does do this, then what is the consequence for really both of us in our life if that happens? Because it will affect both of you, right? So Britt and I thought about, you know, maybe just some examples of this. Like Brittany, you said earlier, I don't like when people yell. It makes me shut down. Please just speak calmly, right? So if that's your boundary, and then you start having this discussion with your partner and it gets really heated and it all of a sudden gets really loud, right? What does a consequence to that look like? They're crossing the boundary that you so clearly stated.
Yeah.
Okay. Since you keep raising your voice and screaming at me, I'm going to leave this conversation. We'll talk again when you get, you know, when you can be calm, right?
Yeah.
And if with certain people, that is going to make them irate. You have now removed yourself from the conversation when they still want to yell.
Yeah.
But for other people, like it also shows you where people are at that given moment. For others, they will say, I can't behave like this. It literally causes the person that I love and care about to want to be away from me. This isn't a healthy way to communicate. I have to figure out, why do I keep screaming and going to screaming every time I get upset?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's revealing the relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and we talked about like being in chaotic environments, so, an example of a boundary in that is being in chaotic environments makes me feel overstimulated. Is that a concert? Is that a play? Is that a mall at Christmas time? Like,
Oof.
I can only tolerate them for maybe about an hour.
Yeah.
So then your friend asks you to be their +1 at a show, and you're like, okay, but you've told them, like, this is my boundary. This is all I got. So then after that hour, and they're all still, like, woo, woo, they want to hang. The consequence is I'm leaving. Hey, girl. Hey, dude, I'm leaving right now, and I'm going to catch up with you later.
Yeah. You made it very clear. I mean, that's the thing. If you just kept staying because we're having so much fun, just stay longer, right? You're going to actually be the one that like pays for that, because maybe especially if you're chronically ill, right? You need sleep, like you need some type of routine, or you do better with that, or you have a really long day tomorrow, so you're going to be the one that pays. But if we don't have those consequences, then I feel like boundaries are more just like a suggestion. And when they don't have not heaviness, but just that line, they can be more easily broken and manipulated and shifted.
Yeah. It's the boy who cried wolf.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So when you put a boundary in, they're like, okay, sure. And it's really enforcing a boundary here, and then therefore a consequence if it's crossed. I think the problem we get is like, oh, this makes me mean. But it actually makes you trustworthy. Like, you are not the boy who cried wolf, right? You are the girl who said, here's my boundaries, and I mean them because I care about myself and I care about you, and I want us to have a good relationship. And so then people can know what to expect from you. And it's good for your own soul, and it's good for the people around you.
And listen, setting that consequence, it's not easy. It can be so difficult, especially when it's a long-standing, like, intimate relationship. Like, if all of a sudden you're setting this boundary of, if you keep treating me like this, keep doing this, I'm going to leave.
Yeah.
I'm not going to stay here anymore. Right? It's really unhealthy.
Right.
And they've done it now a couple times after you've set that boundary up, but you haven't gone anywhere.
Right.
It's really tricky, right? Because sometimes maybe you can't. Maybe sometimes you can't just get up and go. But you know that you also cannot live the rest of your life with that happening. So I'm not telling you it's going to be easy. It's going to happen right away. Even if you have that idea in your head, like, I am not going to continue like living in this manner, right? So at least you're recognizing, like, this is not healthy behavior for me. But there's nothing, I think, about that, especially in the beginning, that is easy when you all of a sudden start putting in boundaries, especially in a relationship that is longstanding, that hasn't had them. Okay. There's going to be some pushback there for sure. And I think a lot of us struggle here because maybe in some way we equate, well, if there's consequences, it's like a punishment. And I think that has like a very negative connotation on it, because they're really not punishment. They're protection for yourself. So like, try to think, change that P word over to protection, because they are sticking to a promise that we made for ourselves for safety, whether it's either our mental health, our physical health, our physical well-being, whatever it is. We're putting that line there because it protects us in some way.
I think bringing back in what you said a bit earlier about, like, people aren't going to get this right. And it's not like the first time that someone crosses the boundaries, like we said before, cancel them out, right? Sometimes we can't do that. Right. There's a place where, and especially in the Christian faith, like, it's about forgiveness, right? But I think, like, taking it all together in this mesh together of, like, you have boundaries and consequences, and people do cross them. So what do we do? Like, we don't axe them. We forgive and we try again, if it's safe, right? Sometimes it's not safe. But I think the problem is that we are all, at least for me, and especially with the Christian faith, I mix up forgiveness with access. Like, forgiving someone just means that they get access back into your life. But forgiving someone doesn't mean they automatically regain the same level of closeness or trust. Like, actually, it should be a step back, because they need to regain that, right? If your friend constantly dumps on your boundaries, it's not wise to keep giving them the same level of access and trust. Like, that's not wise. That's not what God is calling us to. That's not good as a human being. Like, we don't have to give forgiveness and access at the same level.
Yeah, and I think there could be a really good example there of, say you told your friend something in confidence and you realize that it had been shared. Maybe you realize this person does that more often than not. You love them. Maybe you've been friends for 30 years. Now, if our internet pop psychology would be like, cut them out of your life, never speak to them again,
Right.
And I'm not saying that that's,
Right.
in some cases that might be necessary, but you can also take a step back, and they don't get that same level of access and trust. They don't get the real deep of what's going on in your life, the nitty gritty, like something that you would not want shared. They don't get that for a while. Like they don't get that. But you also have to be honest with them, right? Because it's not just taking it away and them having no idea that you're not sharing something or why you stepped back. It's, hey, because you keep doing this, I just feel like we're entering this season of, I can't really let you into that innermost circle of my life.
Yeah. It's not ghosting.
Yeah. This is really just not safe because I've asked you now multiple times. So you do have to have that honest conversation, not the most comfortable at times. But also what you just said just reminds me of something else from Lisa that says, like, forgiveness releases us from bitterness, but reconciliation requires responsibility. So you want to reconcile with that friend, right? There's going to have to be some responsibility on both your parts. One is you sticking to your guns of, man, I really want to tell them about this, but it's so personal. Like, I want to tell them something that happened, but I can't right now because it's not safe. Like, I sort of have to watch and keep this one close to my chest for this moment. And it's them taking that responsibility of saying, I want to be a trustworthy person. I want them to know that they can trust me. And so I am going to be better about my behavior and make sure that I am not sharing like people's, personal information. And you do that for a season and you see how it goes.
Yeah.
So consequences teach people also how to treat you. Boundaries teach them like where you stand in things, and consequences teach them also how to treat you. So there's so much more that could be said on the topic of boundaries. And I'm sure that Britt and I will hit it again at some point in our podcasts here in the future. But if any of this hit your soul in that I'm fine voice, but again, you're really not fine. Here's some books that Britt and I love that will forever be on our bookshelves. We have Boundaries, again, by Cloud and Townsend. We have Good Boundaries and Goodbyes, another really great book birthed out of a lot of pain from Lisa TerKeurst. There's Necessary Endings, which is by Dr. Henry Cloud. And then Britt's favorite, The Gifts of Imperfection by Brene Brown, her girl.
Yep, she's awesome. And y'all, as we close up, just you got to remember, like, peace always costs something.
Yeah.
It will. Boundaries will cost you something. It will reveal, like we said, your relationships. But I guarantee you, chaos costs you far more.
Yeah. And if you're taking anything away from here, we're not telling you, you're not unsubscribing like from people. That's not our message here. We're not cut everyone out.
Yeah.
Britt and I we're not about that. We're unsubscribing from dysfunction. We're unsubscribing from staying in a place that really hasn't protected us. That's what we're unsubscribing from.
Yeah, that's the real unsubscribe button.
Yeah. So thank you all. We love you guys for being here with us. We hope that this resonated with you. Britt and I are still in the process. We're still learning. So we love you, tribe. We hope you come back for the next episode. Hit us up on Instagram if you want to add anything to the boundaries conversation at I'd like to unsubscribe.